Delivering today's Korea to the world, it is Wednesday, March 6th, here in Seoul. And News Today starts now.
40 universities with medical colleges nationwide requested some 3,400 more students be accepted for the 2025 academic year. That's more than the current admissions quota, and it exceeds the number that would be set after the government's admission quota hike. As caretaker costs rise sharply compared to household income, the VOK proposed minimum wage be applied differently to foreign laborers in the caretaker sector so that low-income households can benefit from the service. The 21st National Assembly revised the National Assembly Act to build a working assembly, but over the 3.5 years since the assembly opened, none of the 14 standing committees and 25 subcommittees observed this rule.
Welcome back. I'm Tae-gyeon. We start off with the top stories. The government's initiative to boost medical school slots by 2,000 next year was met with overwhelming response from universities, which collectively applied for around 3,400 spots, far exceeding the existing quota. Remarkably, 73% of these requests came from institutions outside the capital region.
A number that neither the government nor the medical sector expected. 40 universities with medical colleges nationwide have requested that 3,401 more students be accepted for the 2025 academic year. That's more than the current admissions quota, and it far exceeds the maximum number stated in last year's preliminary survey when colleges said they needed as many as 2,800 more medical students. Most of the applications for the quota increase came from universities based outside of the capital region. It has been found that 27 universities outside the capital region requested a quota increase of 2,471 students, or 73% of the total number. Chungbuk National University requested 250 more students, the University of Ulsan 150, Gangwon University 140, and Dongha University and Jeju National University each want 100 more. Also, smaller medical schools in non-capital areas with fewer than 50 students actively sought expansion. 8 universities in Seoul requested 365 more medical students. 5 schools in Gyeonggi-do Province and Incheon said they want 565 more. In total, 930 more students were requested in the capital region.
대학의 신청 결과는 평가 인증 기준 준수 등 의료의 질 확보를 전제로 2025년에 당장 늘릴 수 있는 규모가 2,000명을 월등히 상회한다는 것을 재확인한 것입니다.
The government plans to set up a quota allocation committee and finalize the number for each college by mid or late April at the latest before the universities announce their application guidelines. The government has stressed, although it will consider the university's educational capacities and performance, priority will be given to non-capital areas and areas where regional medical hubs are located.
Now, such unexpectedly high results are attributed to universities' belief that missing this opportunity would preclude future increases in quotas. Medical students and professors are vehemently opposing, citing inevitable declines in educational quality and the disregard of their opinions. KBS spoke directly with representatives of both groups to gather their insights.
It's a new semester, but this university lecture room is empty. This is because some 13,000 medical students nationwide are boycotting classes in a joint move with the trainee doctors' walkout. University presidents have requested an increase in the med school admission quota, believing this may well be the final opportunity to do so. They apparently asked for a sharp quota increase despite opposition from within, considering that student numbers directly relate to revenue and a larger medical school size enhances school reputation.
지금까지 교육을 해오던 이 교육의 질이 떨어지지 않을까. 거기에 굉장한 반발이 지금 일어나고 있고 그것을 설득하고 우리가 좀 만들어가자라는 것들을 작업을 하고 있습니다.
Medical students argue the quota request ignores reality and will adversely affect education quality.
지금은 12명에서 15명 정도가 시신 항구에 붙어서 실습을 하고 있는 상황이거든요. 정말 간단하게 생각을 해보면 사람 한 명을 눕혀놓고 그 주변을 12명 이렇게 둘러싸서 그걸 보고 있는 거예요.
They also criticized the government for belatedly proposing dialogue after making up its mind on the quota expansion. Some medical professors have also protested the move through resignations and by shaving their heads.
일방적으로 너무나 과도한 숫자가 정원 신청이 된 것에 대해서 항의하는 의미로 삭발식을 진행하게 됐습니다.
Many professors are concerned about the potential side effects of the quota hike.
설득 과정이나 어떤 대책이 없는 상황에서 일단 2,000명 뽑으면 해결될 겁니다. 라는 일종의 캐치플레이들을 가지고 증원을 시키면 저는 그 문제의 씨앗이 상당히 오랫동안 남아서
Members of a medical professors association representing 33 schools have filed a lawsuit against the government demanding a withdrawal of the planned quota hike.
Many households are bending under the financial weight of childcare and caregiving services. Not only is the cost a significant issue, but finding people to fill these roles is also a challenging task. The Bank of Korea has made a somewhat groundbreaking proposal. It suggests actively attracting foreign workers to the caregiving sector and applying a differential minimum wage system in this field.
This family, which welcomed twin babies just 18 months ago, has so far spent nearly 50 million won, or over $37,000 in employing a child caretaker.
일단 330만 원 정도. 그리고 한 명일 때 보통 이제 오시는 분들보다는 조금 더 베테랑이셔야 돼가지고 거기에 대한 프리미엄이 또 붙더라고요.
The Bank of Korea estimates a monthly average of 2.6 million won, or some $2,000, is spent on childcare services. This is more than half the median income of families in their 30s. If households are not earning a lot more than this figure, then many women are likely to quit their jobs. Elderly households also need caretakers, and the average monthly cost for this tallied at around 3.7 million won, or $2,700, which is a burden. The bigger problem is a shortage in related workforce despite the growing demand. This is why caretaker costs are rising sharply in comparison to household income. The BOK projects that at this pace, related costs can account for 3.6% of GDP by the year 2042 and stress the inevitability of hiring workers from overseas. The central bank also proposed that minimum wage should be applied differently to foreign caretakers in an effort to lower their wages and have low-income households also benefit from the service.
미국이나 독일, 일본 등 많은 국가에서 생산성 등을 고려해서 업종이나 산업 혹은 지역별로 최저임금을 차등 적용하고 있습니다.
Meanwhile, the country's two major labour groups oppose a differential application of minimum wage, saying such a notion can worsen the treatment of all caretakers. The BOK admitted it's not a perfect solution, but underscored the need to find ways to resolve the labour shortage.
Now, following the Puyong Group's announcement to provide a childbirth support fund of 100 million won, about $75,000 per child, a controversy sparked over the taxation of such funds. In response, the government has made a groundbreaking announcement that any support funds received within 2 years after childbirth will be entirely tax exempt.
Puyong Group is providing its employees a generous childbirth gift of 100 million won, or about $75,000 per child. But taxes turn out to be an issue.
절반가량 되는 돈을 세금으로 납부해야 한다는 사실이 무척 당혹스러웠고
The government has vowed to entirely exempt childbirth subsidies from taxes as long as they are received within 2 years after childbirth. It is a rare instance, as very few items comprising labor income, such as labor scholarships, are entirely tax-free regardless of the amount. The new rule will be applied retroactively up to January 1st this year.
기업의 세부담과 관련돼서는 이 출산 지원금이 이제 근로소득, 그러니까 인건비로 저희가 하게 돼가지고 기업의 비용으로 인정을 해주게 되면 세부담이 없게 됩니다.
Tax breaks on childbirth subsidies can be received up to 2 times per child. They must not be paid out under the name of employees' children, or else the government will impose a gift tax. Puyong Group has already paid out childbirth subsidies under the names of its employees' children, but they can avoid paying taxes if the subsidies are canceled and repaid to them personally.
전면 비과세는 정말 아예 예상 못했어요. 셋째도 한번 가져볼까 이런 생각도 들기도 하고.
While some say the measure demonstrates the government's determination, others criticize it for providing benefits only to the employees of large corporations. Some also point out it will result in more cash subsidies rather than in facility support, such as kindergartens run by companies for their employees' children.
기업 간 또는 그 기업 소속 내 근로자 간끼리 위화감을 조성한다 이거죠. 그러면 우리는 왜 안 주냐? 다른 데는 준다는데.
The new measure can be enforced only after the government submits a revision bill in September and is passed by the parliament.
The National Assembly has long faced criticism for being embroiled in political disputes while neglecting its core responsibilities, such as the passage of legislation direct to people's livelihoods. In response, more than 3 years ago, the National Assembly committed itself to becoming more productive by introducing what has been dubbed the Working Assembly Act. Well, is this so-called act actually being carried out? We take a look.
Ahead of the upcoming general election, rival parties pledged to ease the burden of care costs at nursing homes.
간병비의 국가 책임을 단계적으로 강화해 나가겠습니다.
우리가 공약 1호로 요양병원 간병비 건강보험 적용도 했었고요.
But a bill similar to these campaign pledges was already tabled a year and a half ago. But the bill wasn't even discussed by the subcommittee of the respective standing committee. Since both parties shared similar views, the bills would have been approved if Parliament did its job. The 21st National Assembly, launched 4 years ago, had revised the National Assembly Act to build a so-called working assembly. It stipulated that a permanent assembly system would be established and standing committees would meet twice a month and subcommittees that deliberate on bills more than 3 times a month. But over the 3.5 years since the Assembly opening, not 1 out of 14 standing committees and 25 subcommittees followed this rule. It takes a subcommittee a mere 5 minutes to deliberate a bill, and 130 rounds of subcommittee meetings were suspended because lawmakers were either late or absent to fill the quorum. Standing committees were closed whenever both sides clashed over a political issue, further pushing back important motions that could have improved people's lives.
의미 있는 민생 법안들은 자꾸 이제 뒷전으로 밀리게 되어서 결국은 계류 법안이 되고 임기 만료로 폐기되고 이제 이런 상황이 벌어지기 때문에
There are increasing calls for the National Assembly to not neglect its basic duty of deliberating and processing bills due to political differences.
The United Nations appointed a new resident coordinator to work out its assignments associated with North Korea. The UN headquarters named Joe Colomambo, former head of the Office of UN Resident Coordinator to China, as the new resident coordinator to DPRK and is currently discussing with North Korean authorities on when he can enter North Korea. Once the coordinator is in North Korea, diplomats from Western countries who had left the country due to the pandemic are expected to return to North Korea. The routine joint military exercise between South Korea's armed forces and the U.S. military, named Freedom Shield, has commenced this week. North Korea has issued a statement denouncing it as a war rehearsal and warned of paying a due price, also suggesting the possibility of provocations.
The South Korean Air Force's F-15K fighter jets are deployed at Osan Air Base. They are on standby to take part in a drill aimed at intercepting and shooting down enemy aircraft that trespass into territorial airspace. On the first day of the Joint Freedom Shield exercise with the U.S. on Monday, a squadron-level air drill took place involving some 20 fighter jets, including the U.S. F-16. The Allies held detection and strike drills, exchanging tactical strategies to respond to North Korean provocation, such as cruise missile launches. The latest exercise, also joined by 12 members of the United Nations Command, including the UK and Australia, hypothesizes various crisis scenarios caused by North Korean provocation. The U.S. Rivet Joint Recon Aircraft and Korea's Global Hawk surveillance drone were also mobilized. It's also possible that a U.S. nuclear-powered aircraft carrier could be additionally deployed to the Korean peninsula. North Korea issued a statement through a defense ministry spokesperson, reacting sensitively to the joint drill, which it called a large-scale war drill.
자기들의 그릇된 선택이 가져올 안보 불안을 각일각 심각한 수준에서 체감하는 곳으로서 응분의 대가를 치르게 될 것이다.
The North said it will continue military activities to control the unstable security environment, a possible hint at further aggression. In response, Seoul's defense ministry said the joint drill is defensive in nature and vowed to respond overwhelmingly if Pyongyang wages a provocation under the pretext of Freedom Shield. A unification ministry official said such hostile reaction by the North was expected and did not issue any other particular statement.
The Korea ASEAN Music Festival 2024 round, hosted by KBS, is coming to Laos in November. Marking its 4th year, the music festival will feature a star-studded lineup filled with influential artists from Asian countries. KBS held a round forum yesterday, attended by music industry insiders from Korea and 10 Southeast Asian nations, where the participants talked about the ways to enhance cooperation through music. Well, that is all we have for your news today. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again at the same time tomorrow. Goodbye.